Yeah, because I know this lady from
this
30 years now.
Shepherd of Music, Fatty Wade, accountant. Nice to meet you.
Same here.
On the national, I don't
Fatty Wade. Jules? We have a full possibility. I am joking.
around this. The only thing that I need, for this Sweden, I can hold the chair.
Which chair?
This one.
Into manager's room, you're gonna go straight out.
Well, okay.
No. I have something to tell you. This morning, this morning. Yes.
You know what you need, the Lord said. You know what you need.
Oh. I can
So Benjamin, it's supposed to be like
Yes. No. This one, yeah.
Hello.
no, the last game was to So we need to know who's the guest so that we can record.
And then you can
Okay, there you go. But she has to put it on the global, yes, from there to the. There's some other. Just one? Just one.
It's just a part of.
Jamaican.
One second. Let me check this out. Actually, let it go. So just remember that. You come up. So you
What's up?
Like chickens.
I'm just waiting for the studio 36
Studio?
studio. So let me have to show.
For the website?
I mean, the day. I said,
Oh.
So, you know, it's this police present.
Oh, yeah?
share or not. So you're doing one of these. But it's about 19 captures. By the way, so this is not the first presentation on there. This is the second presentation because he is going after me. So I see this on the screen. What?
Hi.
It's now going on the YouTube.
Show me the link.
Yeah, we
Share it.
So when you start
Share it. I share it.
invite them to come on, freshman.
firstly, I'd like to invite us to stand for the playing of the national anthem, followed by Mrs. Camille Morrison, who will give us a short prayer.
Alright, we're gonna play the anthem when it's called the strap.
Could you please remain standing and bow your heads, please? Eternal Father, or Provider, we acknowledge you as King, Sustainer, Savior, and or Redeemer. You are indeed great and greatly to be praised. We thank you for your mercy, grace, and the blessings that you so freely give. You are the source of our life and strength, and we bless you for all that you have done, all that you are doing, and all that is to come. We thank you for the opportunity to gather here today at the Jamaican Opportunities for Investment and Trade Networking event, being held under the esteemed patronage of Consul General Alcyon Wilson. We express our thanks for journeying mercies granted to our minister, the Honorable Floyd Green, and Mr. Vivian Scully. We humbly ask that this evening's proceedings will go according to your will and that we will have a smooth and fulfilling event. We ask that you bless the speakers, the moderator, as well as the technical teams and support staff who have worked diligently to make this evening a success. We pray that the seeds planted here today will fall on good ground, resulting in a bountiful harvest. And may Jamaica's agricultural sector continue to grow from strength to strength, even as you pour out your wisdom onto our leaders and grant them vision. You are a good God, and we thank you in advance for a fruitful evening. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Consulate General of Jamaica, one of the mandates given to us as staff by our Consul General is to always be looking out for opportunities for the development of Jamaica across a number of sectors. But the Consul General specifically looks at and rural development. She's always talking about the rural communities and how we can go about developing Jamaica from there. And maybe it is in no short order because, like me, she is from what we jokingly say in the office, we are from the bush, and we are proudly from the bush because we are from very deep rural communities across Jamaica. And so this evening's presentation is one of these events which we are hoping will redound to the further development of Jamaica and especially the rural communities. So before I begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the presence of, firstly, our ambassador, permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations, Ambassador Wallace. Thank you for coming. And also a deputy permanent representative, Mr. Craig. We also have the CEO of the Agro-investment Corporation, Mr. Vivian Scully. And we have visiting with us from Hartford, Connecticut, which I think is white when you are leaving, covered with snow. Mr. Brett Silvers and Mr. Ricardo, is it Croy? Croix, from the World Business Capital, and they were involved in meetings earlier with Minister Green. We also have Mr. Jerniel Lorne, and who is also here, was also involved in meetings, another investor. And there are a number of other persons who I recognize as the evening goes along. So, Minister, welcome. We were in the middle of acknowledgement, and also we'd like to recognize our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, the Honorable Floyd Green. All right. So, as we move the program along, I'd like to invite to the lectern Ambassador Wallace, who will bring greetings.
Short man problem. Thank you very much, Christopher. Minister, it's a pleasure to see you here in New York. Welcome to your home away from home. CG, always good to see you. And to members of the team who are here and members of the larger Team Jamaica. My office is just downstairs from this one. And we share a very, very close relationship between the permanent representative, the permanent mission of Jamaica to the UN, and the Consulate of Jamaica here in New York. Because ultimately we serve one country and one people. And that is why it was so important for me to be here to join with C.G. Wilson in welcoming Minister Green. And just to share with you that there is always some overlap of the immediate and direct work that is done by the consulates to connect with projects in Jamaica and the broader framework that we try to create in the UN system that allows collaboration to take place. So we synchronize on our efforts there, and it is one of the things that we try to do as a joined up government to make sure that everything that we do, regardless of the sphere that we're in, ultimately leads back to benefit our homeland. So I'm very pleased to be here with you. I wish you a successful event. No doubt, Minister Green is, I don't want to take tales out of school, but for me, is one of the bright sparks in our politics. And every time I come here and I have an opportunity to address our fellow Jamaicans, I have to always remind you, there is so much that is good about Jamaica, we must not only focus on the challenges. We must acknowledge what is good about ourselves. I had this conversation earlier today in a different context. We must always try to elevate ourselves. We mustn't join others who try to bring us down. We can't be bringing ourselves down. Let's talk ourselves up. We're here to talk about opportunities for investment in our country. And Minister Green represents for us that conduit for those opportunities to translate from here in the tri-state area back home. And I have no doubt that arising from this interaction here, we will see flows into Jamaica and flows back here as well. Because as my father used to say, you cannot enrich yourself without enriching others. So let us work together to enrich our common humanity and our beloved homeland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, as I bring the next speaker to the lecture, and it would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that when I came to New York, which was 7 years ago, he was my boss. We had come here to open the New York office, or reopen the New York office of Jampro. Mr. Shane Angus, are you in the room? Oh, right, yeah, yes. So Shane took over from Vivian, but Vivian went back to the greener pastures. I was about to say, because I see him all the time online talking about Minard Estates. And Minard is, if anybody who's from Jamaica knows that there are lots of cows, lots of pastures, and lots of greenery. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Vivian Scully, the CEO of Agro-investment Corporation, to come to the lecture, and then he will bring greetings and a short presentation. Yeah.
I'll just share that it's good to be back here in New York. I cut my cloth here at the office. We're up the road at the time. CG has transformed the place tremendously. And so it is a pleasure being back here, despite the weather, of course. And also, I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's proceedings. Anybody coming out in this weather has to be respected. That for us, it's like 75 degrees in Jamaica right now. So what can I say? All right, so this thing works with us. All right, Chris has established the protocols. I'm just gonna jump right in. Not seem to be clicking with me right now. All right, so we want to talk a bit about agriculture. Minister Green is going to lay out a very strong roadmap for the sector. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of snippets ahead of his keynote. All right, so I'll get the slides ready. All right, so the opportunity for agriculture is pretty significant at this time because investments are on the rise. And why is that so? Jamaica's economy is at what we call at an interesting crossroads. Our GDP and growth is one of the largest in the Caribbean at this time. With GDP of approximately $16 billion, the country has experienced steady growth driven by tourism, remittances, and of course, our business climate ranked as one of the most business-friendly environment in the Caribbean, with robust investments, strong legal protection, and of course, a pretty stable macroeconomic framework. Our numbers have been trending up significantly over the last 4 years under this administration. And so you know that your investments are going to be safe in Jamaica. Our currency and inflation has also been pretty stable over the last couple of years because of improved monetary policies that has helped to maintain the economy and stabilize inflation. FDI, foreign direct investment. We have a strong government support for FDI. We have agencies in all the major markets, particularly the country is supporting agribusiness, manufacturing, logistics, renewable energy, all things that will make for a successful agricultural investment. In addition to that, based on our location, we have trade and market access to most of the major markets. And we have trade agreements that allow duty-free access of Jamaican products into both the US, Canada, the UK. And so while the tariff regime is supportive of Jamaica, it's an excellent time to make use of this access. We've seen the increase in tariffs across both the north and south border of the United States, and this makes it even more attractive for Jamaican products to enter into this market. So agriculture as a contribution to the economy is roughly 7% of our GDP and is the largest employer of labor force at about 17% right now. The sector is vital for food security, and hence one of the reasons why we're promoting agricultural investments. We want to increase the food security of the country. It's important for rural development. There's significant export opportunity across the Jamaican products. And with significant acreages available, over 350,000 hectares of land available for agriculture. And as a government, there is increased infrastructure investment, both in irrigation and roads and facilities to enhance agricultural production. So, that said, what are the areas within agriculture that we're focusing on? There are a number of high-value crops. We all know about Blue Mountain coffee, fetches third highest price in the world. Most of it is exported to Asia. There's significant opportunity around that. Our cocoas and spices, some of the best in the world. Our cocoa is in the top 10 favored cocoa globally that's grown in Jamaica. Our tropical fruits, mangoes, pineapples, avocados, and papayas have significant export demand. We know the price of Julian East Indian mangoes in these markets. Cash crops, in order to strengthen our food security. Our hotel business is growing exponentially, and this is creating significant demand for vegetables and other produce within the tourism market. Livestock and dairy, agro-processing, cannabis and medical plants, even aquaculture and fisheries. These are all opportunities that we're promoting for investments in agriculture. So, as we look at the landscape, Jamaica is ripe for investment across the spectrum of agricultural products. And hence, we're promoting a number of projects that will facilitate new investors into the country. One of which is our new featured agro park that will be opening in St. Catherine and Clarendon, one of the largest irrigation projects in the country at this time, which will bring close to 2,000 acres of land to agricultural production. And this will add to our inventory of agro parks. Currently, we have 8. That's going to grow up to 10. With about 12,000 acres, and this we're seeking to grow to about 20,000 acres over the next 3 to 5 years. So this is creating opportunity for more investors to get into production in Jamaica. Persons can apply now on our website. We have been accepting applications over the last year, and we're close to announcing the opening of our Parnassus Agro Park in Clarendon and followed by one at Amity Hall in St. Catherine. All right, so pretty much there are lots of opportunities. We're promoting this through an investment forum that's coming up in May, and we're in locally and overseas to come into Jamaica to interact with the community of investors and farmers, agriculturalists to learn more about these opportunities. There'll be opportunity to connect with government officials, with agencies that are responsible for facilitating investments, and we're looking to attract as much activity in the sector going forward. So we invite everyone to take a look at that event coming up in May. So as I hand over to the minister, I'm just going to share with you 3 fun facts about our agriculture minister. Next slide, please. Other than being the youngest agriculture minister, many people do not know that he has a green thumb in policy. Minister Green isn't just about politics. He's got real green thumb for modernizing agriculture, and he's been on the road promoting all the opportunities across the sector. His approach mixes time-honored farming traditions with innovative strategies that make him the minister who can literally turn soil into fertile ground for progress. As a tech-savvy farming champion, under his watch, Jamaican agriculture is embracing technology revolution. Floyd, as he's fondly called, has been a strong at smart farming techniques and digital innovations, proving that farming can be as cutting edge as your favorite gadget. Down-to-earth leadership. He doesn't hesitate to get on the road to promote Jamaica. And despite his high-profile cabinet role, Floyd remains closely connected to the grassroots. He's known amongst the farming community for rolling up his sleeves and engaging directly with local farmers. He brings a genuine hands-on touch to the boardroom and a refreshing reminder that real change grows from the ground up. So join me in welcoming our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scully. This is the second time Mr. Scully and I have been on road in a forum like this, and the last time he never had all those nice things to say. So I don't know if it's CG. Ambassador, really good to see you. I had the opportunity to tour your newly established office space, and I must say, it is quite fitting of Jamaica. Right, really looking good, and thanks, Craig, who carried. Could we give our Consul General a big round of applause? She is, without doubt, among the best in the world. It's this type of CG who gets things done. And we have been saying that we want to go on the road, we want to engage our diaspora directly so that our diaspora can lead investment in Jamaica agriculture. And we spoke about it. I spoke about it to Vivian. I know he was speaking to CG Wilson, and then I saw her at the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And I said, CG, what happened? What? She said, what happened? I'm waiting on you. I said, but CG, anything you say? She said, okay, stand up right there. And before I left that space, she had a date. And the reason why I'm here on a very important day back home in Jamaica, because today is the opening of Parliament, and only CG could convince the Prime Minister that I needed to be here today instead of there. So can we give her another big round of applause? And to be honest, the trip thus far has been truly worth it. We have been in meetings since this morning, engaging with people who have like-minded interests. I see Brett Silver's here from World Business Capital. We had a wonderful meeting about how can we mobilize some funds for Jamaican or Jamaican farmers, and my friends from Pure Valley, that's Fun Valley. Yes, I like the name, Fun Valley, who they themselves are already looking to invest in Jamaica. So let's talk a little bit about agriculture, fisheries, and the opportunities in Jamaica. I will try to condense my presentation because I do feel that it is more worthwhile when we speak to each other. But I will try to give you some context of where we are in relation to agriculture, some of our priorities, why we think this is a great time to invest, and why we're here, why we're engaging the diaspora. So you would have heard some of the figures, and the figures do fluctuate in terms of the amount of GDP that we do contribute. I think the exact figure for last year was about 8.3%. But we do have over 200,000 farmers. And one of the things that I like to share that people don't know is that when I started this journey in about 2021, we had 240,000 registered farmers. So we've added about 20,000 registered farmers over the last few years. So agriculture is in fact growing, and we are seeing more people. And one of the good things, not only have we added 20,000 or so farmers, we've added a lot of young people, we've added a lot of women, and we'll speak about that. Clearly, there are real opportunities, and of all we do, everybody knows that fundamentally, first, we want to ensure that our nation home, where we love, that fundamentally we can feed ourselves, because any independent nation that's truly independent has to be food secure. But also, there are tremendous opportunities here and all over the world for Jamaica food. Let's go to the next slide. So, one of the things that we've been driving is how can we ramp up production? And the truth is, if you look at Jamaica agricultural space now, it's a lot different than 20 years ago, than 30 years ago. One time you look at Jamaica agricultural space and you used to look and say banana, sugarcane, and some people who stay outside and they look on, to be honest, you won't see a lot of sugarcane anymore. You won't see a lot of banana anymore. A lot of those things went when we lost some of our preferential arrangements, but we have transformed in what we do. And the things that we do now are things that are truly sought after all over the world, and things that we're truly good at. And we've been driving domestic production. In fact, in 2021, we hit our highest ever levels of domestic production. We passed 700,000 tons for the first time, and then we surpassed that in 2022. And you know what's interesting about these 2 years? Do you remember what was happening in the world at that time? COVID-19. And then everybody started to wonder, if the world closes its borders, no, not if, the world closed its borders, how will we eat? All of a sudden, everybody appreciates. And the most important people as a part of our society are our farmers. And our farmers really answered the call. And since we have gone over the 700,000 tons, we have not gone back down. In fact, one of the big successes that we've seen onion production surge over the last 5 years by about 86%, reducing our importation of onions. And we are driving. In fact, we had set ourselves our mark to reach 70% of our total demand. We've surpassed that, and we are driving to see if we can get to 100%. It's one of our big success stories. So again, as I mentioned some crops, you can write them down, because onion, big. We consume, you might not know, but Jamaica consumes a tremendous amount of onion. One of our big bases for our jerk seasoning. Next slide, please. So what does the ministry focus on? We have 4 fundamental pillars. One, food security. I went through that already. We have to be able to feed ourselves. As such, we've identified the things that we think we need to grow and grow efficient numbers, so that no matter what happens in the world, we will always be able to be fed. Agribusiness development. Our focus now is transforming Jamaica's agricultural space from just being seen as a hobby, a fallback on profession, to be seen as an investor-friendly sector, to be seen as something that can lead to tremendous wealth and profitability. Clearly, everything we do now in our small island state has no reality. The climate has changed. And in fact, we are seeing longer droughts. We are seeing shorter but more intense periods of rainfall. Last year, 2024, was probably one of the most challenging years that we've had in a long time for our agricultural sector. I started the year going to Parliament and saying, we have to face this drought. And we allocated some money to get behind the drought. And no sooner had I said that, and we were out trying to face the drought, came our first Category 5 hurricane in June. burial. And unfortunately, if you were following, you would see not only did Jamaica suffer, but the area that I am in charge of as member of parliament took a big blow. And we said, all right, no worry, you lick us down, pick us up, bounce right back, and we get back out there. And then by November, end of October, we were seeing something called Tropical Storm Raphael, which where Beryl never came with wind, with rains, Tropical Storm Raphael came with the rains. And for almost every day in November, we saw tremendous rainfall. So the climate has changed. It's all about now, how can we ensure that we infuse climate smart technology? How can we focus more on protected agriculture? How can we ensure that our farmers are more resilient? That's our third pillar. And our fourth pillar is export expansion. Again, you are here. People want Jamaican goods. People want what we farm, what we plant. In fact, there's just something about our island home that almost anything we do has the best flavor profile in the world. And no matter how they take seeds and try to plant elsewhere and try to recreate what we have done, it just doesn't work. And you've heard about our coffee, which you all know about, and our cocoa, but it's almost anything. Our ginger. We just did a study with Rutgers University, 10 times more potent than what is considered the best ginger in the world. Our turmeric, 7 times more of the active ingredient than the world average. So the reality is that the world is clamoring for Jamaican produce. We need to expand our export. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we've been doing is trying to face some of the fundamental challenges, because we do know what has held back our agricultural sector for a very long time. And, unfortunately, sometimes we talk, but we have been really focused on acting around it. One of the big challenges has been access to water for small farmers. A lot of our farmers still depend on rain-fed systems. Again, it's very difficult to run a business if you can't predict things of this nature. So we've been expanding irrigation. And in fact, we have embarked on the largest ever investment in irrigation over the last 8 years. We've invested about 10 billion Jamaican dollars in 2 big projects. Mr. Scully spoke about part of it, Southern Plains Agriculture Development Program, that will bring about 700 hectares, which is about 1,400 acres under irrigation cover. That will be completed this year. In fact, in another month or so, we want to launch a section of it, which is Parnassus in Clarendon. And then when you come to Jamaica and you're heading out of Kingston and you're driving to the best part of Jamaica, and everybody know what the best part of Jamaica is? What is the best parish? There's only one parish, guys. Come on, man. Only one parish is known as Saint Best. But when you're heading on the highway and you look to the left, and people used to say for a long time, why we see so much land? Why we can't do something with the land? The truth is we couldn't do much with it because it never had water. But if you go now, you will see that we're constructing a massive reservoir, and we will irrigate all of those plains. And those are some of the things we want you to invest in. Additionally, we have been trying to drive down the cost of producing that water. So we've been using renewable energy. We've been going across all our old irrigation systems, putting in solar energy, and all our new systems will be run by solar power for the most part. In fact, Essex Valley, which is in southern Manchester and part of South St. Elizabeth, is about 1,200 hectares. That was our biggest irrigation program. We'll be finishing 2026. Massive transformation. If you're familiar with communities like Comapen, Downs, New Forest, massive transformation. Again, we want to invest in that area. And this year, and I like the fact that in Jamaica now, every year we kind of say, this was the biggest, and then next year we'll come with a bigger one. And one of the big things now is that because we've been able to manage our economy so well, we're able to fund a lot of these things from our own resources, which makes a huge difference. So this year we're going to break ground for the PJ Plains irrigation system, which will be our biggest irrigation system. We're going to spend about $30 billion over the next 6 years on the PJ Plains irrigation system, which will take water from the Black River and bring it to the plains of PJ, which is our most productive area now in Jamaica. Next slide. Every time I speak about invested in Jamaica, so these slides are about what are we doing about some of the challenges. Because every time you say invest in Jamaica, somebody say, oh, I'm to the water. Next thing people say, what about Pray Their Last City? Want to invest in Jamaica? What are you doing about Pray Their Last City? Big question, big issue, especially for our livestock farmers. So we've done a couple of things over the last few years. One, we've changed some of the laws to make it much more detrimental if you are caught and convicted in relation to Pray Their Last City. In fact, when we went in, we found that the maximum fine for some of the Pray Their Last City related offenses was $250,000. Again, if you follow agriculture, if you follow livestock, that is not even one goat nowadays, quite frankly. Right? We moved that to $3 million. The maximum time in prison was 6 months again. We moved that to 3 years. And there are other things that now have 7 years. And in fact, we brought Pray Their Last City under the anti-gang legislation. So you can now charge a group of people who are involved in Pray Their Last City. Because to be honest, Pray Their Last City has evolved from when it was a one-man thief and a one goat to now a sort of organized crime. So we've put that so we can now charge people under that legislation, which brings up to 15 years life imprisonment for some of the penalties. But outside of that, we're doing other things. We do appreciate if you have the laws but you can't catch the people, then it doesn't make sense. So we have to put more on the ground. Again, something that we've spoken about for a long time. In fact, when I went to the ministry, I was saying, how can we deal with Pray Their Last City? Somebody said, Minister, look at the Pray Their Last City Act. I looked at it, 1980, right? That was, before I was born. And and it said we should have agricultural wardens, which should be police who are charged with treated with agricultural crime. So they will be on the ground looking for agricultural crime. We're going to have agricultural wardens this year. In fact, we've already started recruitment for agricultural wardens. We already have 162 people that will go into training to select our first 100 wardens. They will be deployed. They are police. They will be police with license, with firearms, who will be deployed in areas where we have high incidence of Pray Their Last City, so that we have more boots on the ground. And we can speak about some of the other things that we're doing. Again, long-standing challenge. You can't have a strong, robust agricultural sector. It's I'm headed from the airport and I'm looking at all this construction and I'm saying, wow, boy, a lot of work happening at JFK. And I'm in the car and somebody's saying, you know that the people who manage the contract to do all of this construction at JFK is the Jamaican. And everywhere you turn, and just on a numbers basis, we know we are significantly greater in numbers than all the other Caribbean. And we have the reach. So we're here because I fundamentally believe that we haven't spent enough time focusing on getting our diaspora to invest in a big way in agriculture and fisheries. That is why we're here. So really success comes from this. Many of you say, listen, I'm going to do something in agriculture, right? Whether you're going to do it through the government or you're going to take some old family land that you have down there that nothing not happening with, and you're going to put some money behind it. That is why we're here. So we have a powerful diaspora. Next slide. Next slide. And we want to, next slide, Chris. We want to channel our diaspora into some of the investment opportunities that we have. All right, so I'm just going to wait now. So guys, just hold on. So we have organized some priority crops, right? Yeah, we have organized some priority crops that we think are great for investment. I don't know how much of you know what's our number one export now. Not the people them who study agriculture, like Patrick Maitland who write about it. Anybody knows our number one export? Number one agricultural export? Put up your hand. Somebody said Aki. No. Close. Who said yam? You shouldn't qualify. Yam is our number one export. And we've consistently made over 30 odd million US. In fact, we rose to almost 50 million US from our exportation of yams. We've identified that as one of the areas that we want to see greater investment in because we are doing well, but we're just scratching the surface. Sweet potato, one of our priority crops that we will see more. In fact, you may not know, but not only the US have seen greater market access to the UK. The Caribbean has said they want to reduce their external imports by 25%. We've now moved it to 30%. Again, real opportunities for Jamaica as the mecca of agriculture in the Caribbean to replace those things. Outside of that, next slide, Chris. Outside of that, we've also organized some fruit crops that we want to see people invested in. And we have put as priority 3. Ackee, which is our second best export. Breadfruit, which is a superfood that everybody's clamoring after. And mangoes. Now, if you're in New York and you know about Jamaican mangoes, then I don't need to convince you that any amount of mango we have, we can sell right in New York, right? It is just not enough. So one of the things that we decided to be more strategic about targeting our diaspora is last year we went to the Diaspora conference and we decided to launch our Eat Jamaican global campaign. And this is a part of what we're doing. So we're being intentional about our actions diaspora. So we went to South Florida. We had an engagement like this. We're here now. We plan to go to Canada. We plan to go to the UK to, one, push the message. The message is clearly Eat Jamaican in general, which you all do. But outside of that is the ability for us to eat Jamaican in the diaspora comes from strong investment that can drive production, that can satisfy these market spaces. So that's the message. There is other elements. There are other elements to our Eat Jamaican global campaign, which includes working with consul generals to identify where are the truly authentic Jamaican restaurants that are using authentic Jamaican spices, not spices that they take from elsewhere. Again, how can you ensure that when you go into the store, you know what is truly Jamaican and what is not being branded as Jamaican? Because we have a lot of knockoffs in the marketplace because we effect such good prices. And we can talk about some of the ways that we think we're going to deal with that in coffee using blockchain technology so that you can know when you scan the QR code that this is in fact Jamaican, on and on. So this is part of our Eat Jamaican global campaign. Next slide, please. So again, there are multiple ways for you to get involved. And I want you, and I'll just go through these last quickly because I want us to speak about it. We do have agro parks that are opening up. You heard from Mr. Scully. I was going through the list of crops. So we did say yam, we did say sweet potato, we did say ackee, breadfruit, and mangoes. The other two areas that we want to see strong engagement is our small ruminant sector or goats, livestock. Again, this is one that's not really for export. This is one that's really for us. I don't know, nobody can guess, not CG, about how much meat, goat meat, not really goat meat, but about how much Jamaica imports in terms of that we consume as goat each year. About how much Jamaican dollars. Come now, bright person, we'll have a prize for you. trip to Jamaica, Joe. And them start go quick. Anybody?
Percentage?
No, like 500 million,
And
1 billion.
1 billion.
No, it's not so much. Oh God. We import $3 billion worth of meat that is is largely used as goat meat, but it's not really goat meat. It's largely mutton, because goat is not such a big meat commodity all over the world. So we believe we have a tremendous opportunity for us to replace that by driving our small ruminant population, our goat population. In fact, we went to the Ministry of Finance and we said, in order for us to do that, we need to provide some incentives for people who want to get involved. And what we said to the Ministry of Finance is that we need to raise the quality and the quantity of our goats. So we need better breeding stock to come in. And as such, we removed the duty and the GCT from bringing in the breeding stock. And we are seeing a complete revolution in our goat industry in Jamaica. We brought in about 1,200 goats. Most of them brought in by the private sector. The government only did about 200. Those are now going through the process. And I'm telling you, the quality that we're now seeing, that is the biggest area that we're seeing young people. That's the biggest area that we're seeing female farmers in our small ruminant. So massive opportunity. The other area, give me the next slide, Chris. The other area is, and again, we can give you all the details. So we can tell you how much will it cost you to invest in the 3 crops that I had mentioned, what will be the return on your investment. Go to the next slide. So we have all the breakdown, we have the profile, we have how long it will take you. And for Aki breadfruit and mangoes, a program now that if you have the land and you do the work, we will give you the planting material free. Completely. Because we're looking to drive production, right? We will send the expert to tell you if this is the best location for you to do mangoes or for you to do akis. In fact, we established our very first mango agro park, and we still have a couple of spaces where people can come in and lease about 50 acres to establish mango orchards. And what we have done, we do the infrastructure in those agro parks. So we have done the roads, some of the roads, we've done the irrigation lines. You just come, you plant. And we've also provided some of the planting material, right? So real opportunity now. The next area, this is the last area that I think has tremendous potential. Next slide, is aquaculture. One of our biggest food imports is fish. And it's a bit amazing for island state. Now, again, we've had challenges over the years with our capture fisheries. Again, how we've approached capture fisheries for decades wasn't sustainable. And again, unfortunately, it's a resource that can be depleted. And we've learned the hard way. Thankfully, we've been building back our nearshore fish population through fish sanctuaries, which are no-catch zones. And in fact, last year, we put in 2 new fish sanctuaries. And you know, we've turned a cultural corner because now I go to fishing beaches and fishermen are saying, Minister, we need more sanctuaries because we're seeing that species that we haven't seen for decades are re-emerging now. So we're building back. The other thing that we're doing is that we're teaching our artisanal fishers to go further out. That was a big challenge, you know. We were nearshore fishers. So we have done a program now where we've taught them artisanal longline fishing, and we've deployed what we call fish aggregated devices, and they now go further out. In fact, we provided some engines as well, and they now catch bigger species. One of the challenges is that Jamaican like a certain type of fish, you know, we like whole fish and then things. But the truth is, the world, and especially our hotel sector, they're looking for the marlin, they're looking for the mahi-mahi, they're looking for, you know, the fillets. It's amazing what has been happening since we did that training. In fact, almost every day now I get a picture CG with people who've gone out and they still can't believe what they're catching, like deep sea snapper, which is a whole different kettle of fish. But outside of all of that, there is a tremendous opportunity for freshwater fish production. And I say freshwater fish, but you could also say freshwater shrimp. You could say almost everything. And I'll tell you some of the things that we're doing in that regard, right? We want to grow our tilapia footprint. So we're doing a brand new hatchery. In fact, we now produce about 1 million fry per year. We're upgrading that to 5 million per year, we will need investors to take that off. One of the big pluses that happened in COVID, there was a time earlier with freshwater fish that Jamaican people never too interested. That changed. The demand now for freshwater fish is through the roof. Every single freshwater farmer cannot satisfy the demand. And they're being held back because we can't produce enough fry. Hence, we're expanding the hatchery. But that is just the local population. We want to serve not just the local population, we want to serve the region, and we want to serve international. So that's a big area. I just toured yesterday before I flew here our new prawn hatchery. So for the first time, we've established a prawn hatchery because we want to get into shrimp production in a very big way. The other thing that we're doing, oyster production. We're teaching the artisanal fishers how to do oysters. Again, big area to scale up. Hotel market is big. And another thing that we have done is teach the artisanal fishers how to do sea moss production. Now, you may not know, but Jamaican sea moss is highly sought after. Well, you would know because growing up, everybody used to tell you about the excellent properties of Irish moss and how it's really good for health and strength and vim, vigor and vitality. No, that has gone across the world, but it's also used significantly in cosmetics, right? And what we've done is shown our artisanal fishers, and I just say artisanal fishers, we showed our fishers because the last time I went to St. Anne, it's hard to say the amount that is being done in the sea because the acreage, but I have somebody who's invested significant sums in farming sea moss. And we have two varieties. We also brought a variety from Grenada. So there's tremendous opportunity in aquaculture. And I haven't gone into cage culture, which is another tremendous opportunity. And we're doing a pilot project now in Bowden in St. Thomas. All right, I think I almost finished. Next. Yeah, so we have all the information you need. There is no reason not to invest now, big or small, directly through government or with your own family plot. We can guide you down that pathway. We have an agency which Mr. Scully is the head of called the Agro-investment Corporation. They were established to help people invest, to handhold your process. You don't know you have some money you want to do some farming. We can guide you through. Or you already have the know-how, you're looking for some land. We can pair you with land. We can pair with almost everything, right? So reach out to us. Next slide. And I've gone through all of that. So the next steps, talk to us. Share your questions, share your concerns, share your issues, reach out, take Mr. Scully's number. Let us ensure that we are driving the expansion in Jamaican's agriculture. I have no doubt, I'll tell you two stories. I have no doubt that Jamaican agriculture is going to expand significantly. There's no question about it. In fact, the geopolitical climate favors it, right? It's going to happen. We should be at the forefront of it. I know that's why I'm on board. We should be at the forefront of it, right? We have some wonderful investment now in protected agriculture structures. That's doing extremely well. I went to tour one of them recently. I think the investment was about $2 million US. They will recoup their investment probably in about 2 years or less, which is tremendous. And then move into significant profit because again, they plant straight through day and night, reap every single day, have contracts with major hotel chains. Again, we could speak about what's happening on the hotel side, right? We are expecting to see another 5,000 rooms in another less than 5 years. They all will eat 3 meals a day for all-inclusive models. There is tremendous opportunity now. Let me see if that's the last slide. Yes, next one. Yes, so please, let's talk, let's invest. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
All right, Minister, don't get too comfortable because we're bringing you right back up here. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you were listening and I hope you were taking notes because now is for you to have your questions answered But before we do, I would like to invite two individuals to come and join Minister Green and Mr. Scully. Here, Mr. Lansford Dyer. And Mr. Dr. Dion Noble. We were supposed to have been joined by Norma Jarrett, but she sent a message that the flu had her knocked really badly down. So she actually sent a long message, and I won't read it. But I will just say that one of the things that she talks about in her message, though, is that as members of the diaspora, there is a lot that can be done and that the diaspora gives back. And she outlines in her message a number of projects that the Old Farmers Association of North America are involved in Jamaica, which run the gamut of education, investment, research, even software development. Can you believe that? So there is so much as diaspora members that you can contribute to that will help to drive the agriculture sector forward. I am going to hand this mic. Let me switch microphones. This one sometimes gives a little problem. Let me start. So I'm going to start with Lance. Yes, Mr. Scully. But I'm going to ask the two gentlemen who joined first to just give us a little testimonial about their experiences as diaspora members who have invested in Jamaica. I told Lance a while ago when he came in that I feel like I own his experiences in Jamaica because I introduced him to the idea of going back and investing in Jamaica when I was with Jampro. And he took the bait and went in. And he will tell you in 2 minutes his journey and share with you how you can get involved in investing in Jamaica and some of the things to do and not do. So, Lance, over to you.
Yes, Chris, thank you very much. And again, good evening to Council General, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Scully. Yeah, and my brethren Dion here, Dr. Noble. We have kind of walked similar paths with different results as of now, but I'm positive that I'll turn the things around. And we're starting to see green shoots emerging. Well, it was 2019, right, just before COVID, that I came over to the consulate and spoke to Chris. At the time, he was on the Jampro side, right? And we discussed agriculture opportunities in Jamaica. Now, Chris, as a representative of Jampro at the time, gave me significant guidelines, told me products that we should focus on. And they are playing out because there are still some of the products that Minister Green pointed out are doing really well. So we looked at the Scotch bonnet pepper at the start, but looked at also ginger as a medium-term crop, and then at breadfruit and akis and longer term. So we have seen significant help from the government agencies, primarily RADA, Jamaica Forestry, and Jampro along that way. And we've also had help from non-governmental organizations such as Trees That Feed. You know, Auntie Mary is on the global campaign to get everyone eating breadfruit. Yeah. So right now we believe we are well positioned to move forward and to really participate in the projected growth in the Jamaican agricultural sector.
All right, thank you, Lance. So I'll now hand over to Dr. Noble. And I learned this evening that he's a psychiatrist by trade. And he decided that he wanted to invest back in Jamaica as well. And he currently has 100 acres under production with a possibility of another 100 to come shortly. So Dr. Noble, tell us about your process and how you ended up in St. Mary.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. So, like Lance, years ago, probably back in 2014, 2015, family land was there. It wasn't being used. Trees overgrown. I looked at it. I said to myself, I think I want to do some farming. I know absolutely nothing about farming. I don't even know how to plant a tree. So a family member decided that he was going to help, and we started cutting down a lot of these, trees and everything. Anyway, we decided, my vision was Scotch bonnet peppers at the time, because it was one of the things that was really, really well needed. But of course, with the insects and everything, it became like trying to nurture a baby. And eventually we gave up on that. Went into callaloo production. We did that for a while. Eventually we decided to do long term. So now I do akis, I do breadfruit, plantain, soursop, lime, coconut, which I get from the coconut board, jackfruit, sweet sop.
Wow.
And the lime production. So, and the list goes on. It has been an absolute pleasure for me doing this. I mean, when I'm here, I'm practicing. When I'm in Jamaica, I'm swinging a cutlass. So it actually does relieve my stress from dealing with my patients here. Like Lance, I give credit to the coconut board, to RADA, and all these other agencies. And so far, production is good.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. So, yeah, give them a round of applause. So, what I'd like to ask, and I'll start with Minister Green. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, just raise your hand. You can stand there. The microphone will come to you. But Minister Green, based on your presentation here and the people who are gathered, we know a lot of folks have land at home that's, as Dion just said a while ago, is just overgrown. Nothing is happening there. What is your advice to someone who they have the land and the production that you need to get into? What should they do right now?
Reach out to us. Reach out to the AIC, because the first thing is we want to at least send somebody. You heard the mention of RADA. We want to at least send somebody to give you some advice as to what to grow. All right. I know it's easy just to look around, but part of what we've been saying is that, one, we have to take a more scientific approach to our agricultural sector. Will this grow well in your area? But outside of that, a business-driven approach. We want more people to plant to markets, not plant and then say, boy, where am I going to sell? The reality is that a lot of things can do very well, right? And Dr. No mentioned some of the things. So even the list that I gave is not exhaustive. I mean, citrus, big business in Jamaica now, right? Because we went through a period where our citrus trees were completely decimated. So we're now on the rebuild. So lime, orange, Artenique, ugly, big business. Coconuts, boy, we don't have enough coconuts, quite frankly. Coconut water, unfortunately, to satisfy the demand, we have to tap into external sources, right? So we now have a drive by the Coconut Industry Board where they will provide you with coconuts. So reach out to us. We used to have a program, and it's something that I've asked Mr. Scully to look back on, because you also have some people who they don't want the hassle of treating with the land, but it's good agricultural land. So we used to have a program where you can identify the land, and if you're willing, we will lease the land from you and lease it to farmers. Because if we think about all our communities, there's so much good agricultural land that's not being utilized, but it's privately owned. So again, have some family land, you're not going to do anything with it, good agricultural land, reach out to the AIC. Let us look to see if we have farmers in the area who would be interested, if we can lease it, and we'll manage it for you. You just get your lease, and it's simple.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the first question, I think, Mr. Christopher, and then there was a gentleman in the black here, and then the gentleman, and then we come to the lady in the brown. So remember that order, and then we'll come back. So let's take all 4 questions, and then we ask the panel to respond.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dominic Christopher. I do have few investments in Jamaica. The question is regarding fishery. There's challenges that I know that I face as a fisherman, where, for example, running the bank to catch, for example, bonitas and stuff. We discussed at fishermen where creating like artificial logs along the banks. We haven't implemented as yet, because we don't know. I mean, speak with the ministry as how it would affect sustainability. And but the fish, they migrate a lot. But if we're able to really, set up artificial, then allow us to catch more, because where we are in Montego Bay, we showed interest, whereas to sell to the other resorts, chain resorts, for example, Rio, sandals. But we do have an issue where that we don't really catch a lot, so it doesn't really benefit the large corporations. So I can see why they don't really invest too much time with the smaller fishermen. But to focus on the migration, creating logs or different ways that we can focus on sustainability and catching more fishes.
Yeah, so thank you for raising it, because you're spot on. So in fact, our fish aggregated devices are exactly that, right? So for the first time, we've actually deployed 9 fish aggregating devices, which are artificial log type structures that attract pelagic species. I had the pleasure of going out with some of my fishermen for one of them that we had put out, and I mean, within less than 5 minutes, right, we caught mahi-mahi, right? So we started it. Clearly, we're going to look to see how it does. So we're going to look at the sustainability. Part of what we're doing, we're going to strengthen our fishery sector by, we're getting a brand new research vessel. Well, our first ever research vessel. So we'll be better able to monitor all the species that we have. But definitely we've started the process. So we've deployed in St. Mary, St. Anne, St. James, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Portland, I'm missing. We've deployed 9. So far they're going well. The best I've seen is St. Mary. I mean, St. Mary, and then we have one guy in St. Anne who he was the top of the class. And we just signed a deal with him. And what's the name of the hotel? It used to be Jamaica Grand. Moon Palace, right? In fact, we spoke to the owners of Moon Palace, introduced them, and he's now supplying marlin and some bigger fish. So we're on that trajectory. So let's talk. So for fisheries related matters, we have an entity called the National Fisheries Authority, right? So you wouldn't have to go to Mr. Scully for that. You can go to the NFA.
All right, next question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take a group before.
No,
sorry.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for just being present to answer our questions. I have 2 full questions because your position has different sectors. In terms of long-term crop, where back in the days they used to go around, health inspectors used to go around and say the tree have disease, we're going to help you cure it. They used to do budding and so forth. Is that aspect still taken into place currently? My next aspect was that for persons to promote selling agricultural goods, they used to go around to persons not having big farm, but just local people in the community, and say you have Akis who want to buy the Akis from you, is that incentive still going on? Mining on your part. Now, mining has taken away a lot of long-term crops. I'm from South Manchester, where everything is gone. Now, what aspect is there in recuperating the lands, like on a quicker response time? Because there's several times they have been mined and it's not being rehabilitated. So, what aspect of time frame is there, or is there going to be set in place to help rebuild the land so we can have more crops established?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Next question, gentleman in the green. Huh? Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Good evening, Minister Green. Thank you for such a wonderful overview. My name is Dr. Matthew Jones. I'm an interventional cardiologist, first generation American. Just recently became a Jamaican citizen by way of my mother's birthright. Love that. Thank you. My father's Trinidadian, but I'll see that. And along with my beautiful wife, we are part of a collective bringing forth a boutique grocery store line, similar to Union Market and some of the other competitors out there, but with a specific focus on the Caribbean roots and the heritage of herbal remedies and food. I'm a staunch advocate of prevention, and my question is twofold. First part is that we know that there are multiple herbal remedies that have its ties to pharmaceutical medications. And you alluded to the research that has been done with Jamaican ginger. But I want to know if there's any formalized approach to understand the biochemical components of many of the root herbal traditions that we know near and dear. So that's one. And then number two is establishing a connection with farmers for the purpose of our initiative for the boutique grocery line.
Okay, and the lady in the brown here.
Hi, my name is Sandra Wallace. I just have a quick question. I went back to Jamaica recently, and a lot of the lands that were used for agriculture seems to be devoured by the housing development. Is there a designated area that the farming will be allocated to, and how is that being addressed?
Okay. All right. Who wants to go first, Minister?
All right, no problem. All right, so let me start. Remember your name?
Grant.
Grant. All right, so a couple questions I can ask. All right, so mining, there is a time frame for the rehabilitation of lands. To be honest, over the years, a good job hasn't been done of enforcing that. There's a 3-year time frame that the land should be, once mining has been completed, the land should be brought back. There are standards as well in relation to topsoil. I have given an edict that we will be taking a zero tolerance approach, right? So one, we expect no lands to go into backlog, right? So we expect all the lands the lands that have been mined that mining has been completed in 2022, we've said to the companies that they must be rehabilitated this year, right? That's the first step. Second, we have asked all the companies to give us a plan for clearing the backlog of lands, right? Third, there is a financial penalty that is applied, and we're going to start enforcing that in a big way. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is that we have done significant research over the years about crops that still do well after mining, right? I think what we have to do now is, again, how can we roll that out in a big way? So one crop which is highly valuable is the castor bean, right? Does extremely well on former mined lands. You should know that our castor oil is among the highest priced in the world. In fact, if you go into stores, you will see a lot of Jamaican black castor oil. That is not Jamaican black castor oil. And we've been working with UA now to develop standards because we want to know it's a geographic indicator around Jamaican black castor oil, so we're better able to protect it. So we're moving in that regard. And there are other things. In fact, part of what we've started to do, which I've also done well, is establish protected agriculture structure on former greenhouse lands. Again, you're not using the soil, using different medium. But one of the things that we've done creatively is where we find it suitable that a pit has not been restored that we can use for water collection. Instead of restoration, we transform that into a water catchment area and use it for the greenhouse. So we're working in that regard. There is still, well, two things. So the aggregation that you speak about in terms of people going around and collecting, buying things here and there, that used to happen at one point in our history from a government standpoint. So the government used to do that, right? The government doesn't do a lot of that now, but it has been replaced by the private sector. So we do have literal aggregators, people who've made, I'm not talking about vendors now, that's different. I'm talking about people who have supply contracts with like our hotels, who then come into, let's say, Flagaman in my area and buy melon from multiple people and supply, right? And we've been trying to push this as an area. We are, however, looking back, especially at some items and especially in times of heavy supply, if we have to get back in the aggregation business, right? And the last one, yes, we do offer some pruning support, right? Through RADA. But again, it needs now a sort of decisiveness in terms of letting us know that you are formally going into orchard crops. You're formally. So one of the problems that we have is that people just used to plant mango trees, right? They don't prune, they don't look at the science behind it. So they're bearing, but you're not getting the numbers. The tree is growing too tall. You're not getting the people who can climb it. What we want is for you to let us know from the start so that we can have somebody work with you straight through and teach you what you need to do to maximize. And we have a very, very good fruit tree specialist, Loxley Waits, who can help guide you through that process. All right, my new Jamaican friend. Yeah. We do have significant amount of research. What we probably don't have is one place that you can find them. So as you ask the question, it's probably something that we have to look at. So we have done, the Ministry of Agriculture has done research, Scientific Research Council has done significant research on almost all our herbal plants, University of the West Indies, NCU as well. We probably should see how we pull together a repository, right? And that's something that I will take away and see how we can get that done. But the information is there depending on what you're looking for, right? In fact, there have been some books that have looked at some of the properties of some of the more popular ones, right? I like we definitely can link in terms of finding farmers. In fact, the ministry, along with the Ministry of Tourism, operates something that we call the Agri-Linkages Exchange. You can actually go online and find it. We call it Alex. Their farmers already registered on that platform, and they normally post what they have. So we used it as a tool to connect farmers to hotels, but there's nothing stopping it from being used as a tool to connect farmers to your overseas marketplace, right? So that's up and running now, called Alex. So you can check that out. Land, housing. Yeah, very, very good question. So we do have designated areas, and that's why we speak about the agri parks, right? I've always found people sometimes say, well, the biggest threat to agriculture is like housing. I find the biggest threat to agriculture is the lack of use of land. Because when good agricultural land stays there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, somebody's going to find something for it to do. It's either going to housing development or informal settlement or something of the sort. So I've been saying, and that's why what we're talking about here is so critical. We just have to put these lands to use. And part of what we have to do as government is put in the infrastructure where we can to make it easier for these lands to be used. So I spoke about the big projects, but we also do small projects around water, because water has been a perennial challenge in a number of agricultural areas. So we do catchment ponds, right? And we do that on a community level if we have a group of farmers, and we do that on a private level. On the private level, if you dig the pond, we provide you with a pond line, right? So that you can have a catchment pond that you can use to do the water when the times of rain come to drive your agricultural enterprise. So our drive to ensure that less land goes into housing is to use the land. The other thing that we probably don't speak about, yes, we've lost some land, but we've also gained some land, right? So one of the things that we've done with the National Housing Trust and the NLA is say, land that you are not going to use, that is good agricultural land, that you have under your shop, give it back to us. So in fact, in St. Anne, under the Agro-Invest Corporation, we just entered into a new agro park where what this was, I give you a clear example. This was land that was unused, well, land that was there, NLA land, good agricultural land. Farmers have been there for decades, farming. Can't get no documents, can't get no title, can't expand. We've said to the NLA, give us that land. Let us regularize the farmers. So we've got that land. How much land is that, Mr. Scully?
1,000 acres.
About 1,000 acres. All the farmers on it now, we've given them lease arrangements. So now they can go to the bank and say, listen, I have some tenureship, give me some money, let's see. So we are looking for those parcels that we can take over. And that's what we'll have to do. That's the only way.
All right, Mr. Scully, I wanted to throw the next question to you, and I see you reach for the mic, so I think you were waiting for me. I'm coming back to the floor. Don't worry, we're coming back to the floor. And any member of the diaspora sitting in here right now, they heard you mention the agro parks that you're developing, and they have been so, their interest is now heightened and they want to come to you. Walk us through what it is that is needed for one to get some tenureship in one of these agro parks, how easy it is, what's the investment that is needed for something like this.
Good question, Chris. Happy to highlight that. So we made the process a lot easier than it was several years ago. You used to have to complete like a 28-page form. It's now down to 4 pages, and we're looking at making it much smaller, maybe 1. First place to start, we have a number of agri parks actually across the country, numbering close to 10,000 acres right now. It's going to go up to 12,000, and we're looking at expanding that to 20,000 over the next 3 to 5 years. And yes, there are lands going into housing, but once we have demand in terms of investors, once we reach out to NLA, we can convert a lot of those idle lands into agro-park lands. And as you notice, the government is investing significantly in providing infrastructure on these lands in form of irrigation, roads, and marketing facilities. So the process is a lot easier and it's a lot more facilitatory at this time. So to begin, easy, go to our website, agroinvest.gov.gov, and the form is there. You can fill it out online. In order to be successful, because our agro-park lands are available for lease, the persons who can't purchase these lands, which are in the region of anywhere from $1.5 to $2 million per acre, you can lease it for $100 per acre per year. It's that small. And then you indicate to us your financial ability to convert that land into agricultural production. And that will range anywhere from 3,000 US to 5,000 US based on plan to put into production. And that money is not for us. It's for you to plow, put in your drip irrigation and fertilizer and labor, etc. So that's it. Within 6 weeks, you can be a holder of your own plots of land, ranging from 5 acres up to as high as you want to go.
Okay. All right, thanks. And before I go back to the floor, I'd like to ask another question of the gentleman here. You went into this. Talk to us here about your process in terms of financing your agriculture endeavor.
So for me personally, everything was out of pocket. So nothing was, I didn't approach a bank or anything. It was basically all done, out of pocket, which was quite a substantial amount. but so far it's working out. It's paying off, and I'm extremely satisfied at this point.
Yeah, in a similar vein, everything that I invested came from out of pocket initially. I think one of the challenges that we faced early on, again, is when we went to the banking sector, there just wasn't any willingness to lend, so everything was direct equity capital. One of the challenges that we also came across is, not coming from an agricultural background and used to working in spreadsheets, to do a lot of work trying to get an understanding of crop profitability, crop economics. Thankfully, AIC is at the forefront of that. We're able to get that. But one of the challenges you might find is if you go to the informal sector, you'll find people talking in terms of, yeah, man, you can make a lot of money if you do that. But you ask them about the specifics, they can't tell you about what's the expected crop yield, what's the economics. But between the Ministry of Agriculture and AIC, we're able to get a lot of that information early on.
Okay. All right. Yes, CG.
Mr. Benjamin, it breaks my heart that these two panelists have spoken about or told us about the difficulties that they have experienced in obtaining financing from our local banks in Jamaica. So my question then is, and both of you are funding your projects out of pocket, but what about the small man in the diaspora that can't fund them idea out of pocket? Do we have anything that we can advise our diaspora here in the US, especially in New York, that can be of some assistance to them?
Okay, CG. It's interesting that you were to draw that, but I see Lance has his hand up. Let me see if he has an answer to that question firstly. And
well, one thing I'd like to say is that when there's power in the community, when we come together, what I'm leery of again is people entering into informal arrangements. You have an idea, you have a small amount of capital, and you go out there and say, I'm going to invest with my brethren or that farm manager I know. I think Chris and I Dion and I have gone through, walk a different path. Dion had a good farm manager at the start and it's paid off. He's done well handsomely. I didn't have that. And what I want to be careful of, because we see a lot of these stories, is that people have this nostalgia. I want to go back to Jamaica. I want to go into farming, but they don't have the education about farming, and they don't have the genuine relationships of people who are going to actually be there for them, and they can lose a lot of money, lose little that you have there. So I would tell you to steer away from informal arrangements and try to get knowledge from AIC, RADA, Forestry, Ministry of Agriculture before you step out. And then one thing I'd advocate for as well is that we form a group, a private cooperative that can actually educate people from the diaspora, not just people from the diaspora, because when I'm in Jamaica, I meet a lot of nice people in Kingston who have land and they go down every few weeks or once a month to their farms. And they're like, we're struggling because we're not there, right? And it becomes an issue where it's a lottery if you find a good farm manager you don't have. Because like in most businesses, people, very important. You can have all the great ideas, but without the right people, the right knowledge, it falls away. So I'd say, we should, in the diaspora, should build that kind of Jamaica Association of Absentee Farmers, something along that line, where we can share it. And it's not just for us in the diaspora. Right? We can share that information.
Well, for those of you, I'm coming to the floor. You're next, all right? Bear in mind, you're next, and then, okay. Miss Gordon, just come down to the front here. But just, if you recall, my introduction, I did say that one of the things that the Council General talks about is how we can put things in place to help the rural communities. And part of the discussions that have been taking place was and yes, it's actually been going on for 2 years now, was to see how we could come up with a program that would provide financing for small farmers. It's not just small farmers in Jamaica, but for small farmers here who want to invest in Jamaica. But you have to make sure that you have the systems in place to make sure you can access this funding. And, you know, based on some of the discussions that have taken place over the last 12 hours, I believe that the energy has now gone back into those discussions. We should be looking forward to moving on with this project. So let's take the next, but the next persons who are here at the front, but if you make it quick.
Closer to me.
Huh?
She was closer to
Yeah,
me, so she just came back. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Rimple, and I am representing a company or an organization called Hello Agriculture. This organization was actually started at Cornell University. I have no background in agriculture, but I was kind of drafted into it through my partner, who did his studies in controlled environment agriculture. One of his vision when he was at Cornell was to go back to Jamaica to take all that knowledge and, you know, implement it in a way that could, you know, for capacity building, revolutionizing agriculture, and all these wonderful things that we are talking about tonight. So right now he's in Jamaica. He's in Kingston, actually. He's from Kingston. And he's there navigating the space while I'm here freezing in the cold. And one of the reasons I'm not there, it's because we have all this information like bits and pieces, and which is one of the reasons I'm here, just trying to make sense of you know, what the landscape of agriculture looks like in Jamaica, how we can better, you know, take care of where the needs are and the challenges are. So my question is, before I leave here tonight, who do I speak to so I can have all these pieces, you know, make sense to me?
All right, so that's Mr. Scully. All
right,
but
so I'll be here at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Mrs. Gordon, come to the front for me, please. So these three gentlemen here have been, their hands were up when everybody else's was down. So this gentleman first, the striped shirt, and then the gentleman over there in the jacket. So please, because we don't have much time. Hold on, just make it a question quickly so that we can answer and we give more people to answer. Go ahead.
Some people had 3 questions. All right. I wanted to ask you about the issue of import-export and how does that play out? Do you have a mechanism in place for people who want to be investors to be on that side of the equation? The other thing I wanted to ask you, if people have money and is willing to invest in the area of agriculture, is there any type of mechanism that will ensure or somewhat support their investments so that they can do this willingly and not just say, okay, I have the money and it's just sitting there? And the last thing I want to ask you was that with sorrel is a very interesting crop. Christmas time, we can't pay for it. We can't find it. They said the reason why we can't get it from Jamaica, they're charging us so much money, so we can't bring it in. I want to ask you about those special crops. How do you determine, is Jamaica playing a role in setting the price of those crops? And how do we talk about some type of equity when it comes to importing or exporting those crops around the world?
Okay, next question.
Hi, good evening, panel, and good evening, Mr. Minister Green, and thank you for what you've been doing for agriculture in Jamaica. Now, I grew up in agriculture as of, from a very tender age, and, have risen through the ranks to even, very accomplished stage now. All this time, I've learned that agriculture is the backbone of Jamaica. And also, it turned out that agriculture is one sector that has, all its products are perishables. So on that note, I'm asking, what is your outlook with respect to having agro industries so that we can ward off some of the perishability of these products that agriculture, bring to the forefront? One other question is that I have had conversations with you before that I am interested in small ruminants. And so I would like to get into goat production and goat farming. And so, most of the conversations here this evening is around crops and so forth. So if you could talk a little bit more about the goats or, livestock in general, but preferably goats for me, and what kind of assistance is there so that, I can kind of get my nuts and bolts together to get into goat farming.
Okay. And final question here. He's ready. After this, we come back around. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Carl Bennett, Jamaica College Old World Association executive here in New York. I'm a CFO in my day job, and I'm also a professional investor. So a question to ask is how, I've heard like all the presentation this evening, how do you attract professional investment? If someone wants to come in to provide investment capital, let's say, I'm not a farmer, have no interest in farming. The next tree that I plant will be my first. So how do I provide capital to the industry and be able to get back a return on that capital? Again, let the farmers and the people with the expertise do the work and just sort of give me back a return on that investment.
All right. Minister, before you answer, there was a fourth question. There's Ms. Newman here, but she can't speak because she has no voice. So she sent her a note. So welcome, Minister. Must say you're an excellent speaker, presenter. In exactly 2 weeks, I'll be visiting Jamaica to purchase property via Victoria Mutual Building Society. This is for a dream investment on a tourism scale. Listening to your presentation, I am now interested in also exploring agri-investment. When I get to Jamaica in 2 weeks, what is my first step? As you said, to contact us.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'll go through. The first step is Mr. Scully. So take the information. On a serious note, so Jampro, I think most people are familiar with Jampro. Jampro has done a lot of the hand-holding for investment in general. And Jampro still does hand-holding for agriculture. Shade is here, who is a very, very, very good Jampro rep and is also from the best parish in Jamaica. Sorry, CG. But for agriculture, contact Mr. Scully. What we're trying to do is on the agriculture side to have AIC as that point person. Doesn't mean that they'll do everything. It means that they'll point in the right direction, right? It depends on what to do. Where's the land? Largely, you will at some point interact with RADA. RADA is our extension services. They are the people on the ground who engage with our farmers on a daily, a more regular basis. We should speak a little bit about RADA, but another time. We actually have a new mobile application. So for those of you who are already in agriculture in Jamaica, you can download the RADA app. It does provide you extension services at your fingertip and can help guide you in some of the present problems that people face in general. So AIC is the answer in that regard. All right, I'm going to try and start from Carrier. Well, you got your answer. So your answer was AIC as well, right, Mr. Scully? And CG. CG is very good at ensuring everybody does what they're supposed to, right? So it's also good to route these things through the Council General because she doesn't let them go. And she'll tell you, she can tell you who she spoke to, who made that connect, and what's happening with them now because she follows up. So that's a very, very good. And I'm very interested in the cultural agriculture expert, because that is really one of the fastest growing areas now in Jamaica, in a very, very big way. Import export mechanism, and I think I heard some of that from Carl as well, in terms of, what is the vehicle through which structured investors can truly invest. There are some options when I speak about, but then there needs to be some more, right? Clearly, one of the things that we've been working on through the DBJ is a venture capital framework, right? That people would be able to use as a vehicle to be able to then fund capital investment in agricultural ventures, right? It's something that we can provide with some information through. We can link with the DBJ to see where they are on that framework. That's one of the avenues. Clearly, we also have public avenues through the Junior Stock Exchange, right? That has agricultural enterprise there, right? We do have some companies that have listed, like Spur Tree Spices, right? That are doing extremely well. Speak a little bit about the growth in our sausage. We are contemplating some other vehicles. The AIC now, based on its new act, has the ability to develop financial instruments, right? And we do believe that we should see what we can work on for especially our smaller farmers, right? Especially our agro-pack farmers. And we started some of that discussion with CG, with the World Business Capital, in terms of what the framework. And we would love to have a discussion with you, because again, we don't have all the answers. So, probably you can help guide. I know there has been a long talk at a big level now about the agricultural bond, right? That is something, that I've asked the team to come and meet with me about, to see how that could be, formulated to make it make sense. So we're open to discussion. So let's talk about that. Soil price. We don't control the prices, but 90% of the time when you have a price challenge in terms of the price is just out of your reach, it's really a production challenge, right? So what happens in Christmas time is that the demand for soil goes through the roof. And to be honest, what the local companies are willing to pay for soil to ensure that they have it in Christmas, if you try and pay, that's going to be uncompetitive in your space, right? So what we have to do is just drive production, because the reality is that a lot of buyers are chasing after. I have a very good soil farmer who operates in Amity Hall. I mean, he's made a lot of money over the years, right, from soil farming. He tells you proudly, if you see him, most unassuming Rastaman he will come across. Excellent farmer, sent all his children through university cash from his. So it's production. What happens with most of our things, whether it be soy, whether it be ginger, whether it be turmeric, we just are not producing the volumes to satisfy the demand to keep the price at a moderate level, right? So we really just have to drive the production. Agro-industries, my friend asked about agro-industries. Yeah, and again, when I speak about agriculture, and I'm definitely going to tweet the next presentation based on your question, because I don't want you to believe your only foray into agriculture can be on the primary production side. We do need more agro-processors. We do need some people who are establishing factories to take our primary, rainforest, establish a Bami factory. I don't have hands to sell Bami. In fact, they've even stopped exporting because local is taking up everything, right? And, simple outlay of capital. Got equipment from all over the world to mechanize the process. We are looking for investment in processing. Good area. One of our fastest growing export areas are our sauces. You go into a number of the stores now, Spur Tree, Grace, Scotch Boys, a number of different brands are all over. So agriculture is a big area. The other area of investment that has tremendous potential is storage, right? One of the challenges we have in Jamaica comes back to why we have these spikes in prices, is that our production is seasonal, right? So I went to tour a farm on Tuesday. Great young farmer, sweet corn. If you don't know, sweet corn is our fastest growing crop now in Jamaica. And he was saying to me, Minister, what I've seen over the years is that I need to maximize my sweet corn production between January and June. So he's putting everything into sweet corn now. The challenge he's going to have is that when that comes in and it leads to an oversupply in the market, the prices go down. What we need is storage. The government is actually going to be spending about 1 billion Jamaican dollars establishing storage facilities this year. We don't want to run them. That's the first thing. Secondly, that's not enough. So there is a value proposition for investors who want to establish cold storage or ambient storage for various crops that will buy from the farmers, store, extend the shelf life, and then resell. Great way to make some money, right? So that's another good. Yeah, so everything that we've said about Aki breadfruit, we can give you all that information about small ruminants, right? We actually have a small ruminant development program. I spoke about one aspect of it, which was the importation, but that's just a part of it. One, we do artificial insemination now, right? So you have your small ruminant herd. We provide those services free to help you build better genetics and to help you expand your herd quickly. Clearly, we move from backyard goat farming to now intensive and semi-intensive goat farming. We have specifics for goat houses. We can help you with that. One of the things that you must know, if you're invested in agriculture in Jamaica, you can bring in almost all the items for your agricultural enterprise without duty, without GCT, right? So we have a productive input relief system. So you want to build out a goat house, you want to build in factories, you want to bring in a harvester, so you can do hay. We also do production for silage. We have a lot. So that is handled largely by the Dairy Development Board. So we can put you in touch with somebody who can walk you through that entire process, right? All right. Who else? Well, I dealt with Carl. That's it.
All right. So we take the comment from Ricardo Preuss from World Business Capital, and then we take 2 questions. Please make them short. Question no 2. That gentleman there had his hand up first, and this lady in the middle here had her hand up next. So these are the last 2 questions, and then we wrap. You had a question, Journey? All right. You can ask me the same question, Derek.
Well, this has been very informative. Thank you very much. We have learned a lot. CG want me to say a few words. World Business Capital, we're a regulated finance company here in Hartford, Connecticut, dedicated to provide long-term fundings here in the U.S. and throughout Latin. And for the last 2 years, we have been working with this lovely lady on providing funding to the country. And we're about to close, one first $10 million transactions. And we have, just earlier today, good conversation with the ministers. And we have great ideas how we can keep supporting the industry in the country. We hear loud and clear the needs that are for financing in the country. And that's the gap that we want to cover here at World Business Capital. So available to talk to anybody about specific projects.
All right. Next question is gentleman there, and Mr. Reed, if you can switch, there's a slide there that has a QR code, so that if you're not able to, switch to the other presentation.
Mr. Scully's.
Yeah, Mr. Scully's presentation. If you're not able to ask your question here, scan that QR code and send him a message, and he will answer all the questions, because the minister will come for him if he doesn't answer.
Good evening to the panel. Mr. Green, I spent 21 days in Jamaica and I couldn't find him.
Really?
Yeah.
You came to St. Elizabeth?
No, I just flew
That's where you have to come, man.
I texted you last night and you gave me the timing, and I came here to catch up.
Okay.
Anyway, I spoke to you some time ago on the phone. River at Magate, we send millions of gallons of water, and there's no water in St. Elizabeth. And I told you that there's a pump that I grew up as a boy that used water to pump water. There is also a turbine at Magate. Why we don't put another one in instead of depending on the solar alone? So that's one. 2, what has happened to the 50 goats that was imported by your previous minister. 50 rams. 3, what happened to the tractors? I need to plow 8 acres of land and I can't get a tractor in St. James. Just a little bit below Ginger Hill. I drive all day to come and find you. And lastly, you spoke about the artificial insemination. Water, the rams, and the tractors. I went all the way to Mount Peller, tractor not working. I have the money to work. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Last question to the lady in the middle here. Here. This lady. But she need to put up her hand.
We'll take, I'll use minister's privilege. We'll take 3 more. This lady here, hand up her hand.
And the lady
in the back, and this lady here.
Okay.
No, we can't talk. All right, so we'll take 4 more. We have to be quick before Chris run me out. I don't invite me back.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Minister and members of the panel.
Speak into the mic. We're not hearing it.
My name is Naska Litz. I live in New York, but I'm from St. Anne, Northeast to be exact. I know we're here. The big thing was Eat Jamaica. But Minister, is there a plan to increase lumber production? We use a lot of lumber in buildings and furniture, and I haven't heard anybody talk about that. So I wonder if there was a program, or are we planning on putting a program in place to increase the production of lumber?
Okay. The lady beside her. And then we come to you. No, we'll do the lady here and you go. We're not leaving you out. Minister says we have to ask, take your question.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nashtra Kar. I am first generation, and something that I'm very passionate about is just discussing why we're doing things. So my question is, let me scroll to it, is for each person on the panel, what was your most memorable challenge regarding your farming experience, and what has been your favorite reward?
Okay, I will come back to that. But that's just for the 2 farmers and not.
No, just in general, even with government.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Excellent presentation, by the way. I was actually born in Jamaica. I grew up there and I migrated here to the US. And for the gentleman here, I have a skid steer for sale in Jamaica. In case you need something, you just would have to find a way to get it. Sure. And so I heard the presentation as it relates to Minister Green speaking about collaborating with the Minister of Finance to have taxes not charged on any farmers importing anything in Jamaica. Mr. Green, have you collaborated with anyone in the Ministry of Education for, having youths know about what's going on in regards to farming? Because when I work here, I do commercial real estate here, have a very high concentration here in New York City, and I do come across persons who are of Jamaican descent who they will sell lots of properties in Jamaica. They only use Jamaica, not to be morbid, as a cemetery. So they do no investments there because for one challenge that they face is the bureaucratic, sorry, I can't even speak. I have my Invisaligns. They face like a lot of work or challenges administratively in terms of processing the paperwork, not having sufficient persons to get in contact with, and just the delay overall. So again, the informative part with Minister of Education to inform youths and as well as the process in paperwork in Jamaica.
All right. The gentleman, I think it's this gentleman here, right? And then Mr. Lawrence, you'll wrap up. Actually, I would like to hear from Miss Wilson. She didn't have a question. And I'll say while I want to hear from Miss Wilson, she's a student at Columbia University who reached out and said she really wanted to come to this presentation this evening, and we were full. So I don't know if you have a comment or a question. We're coming to you.
Thank you guys for the panel. I think I was holding back on my question just because it was more so related to the international affairs space. I'm a graduate student at SEPA, so I'm studying international affairs. And I know you were mentioning the hotel industry and the connection there. So my question was, has there been any discourse surrounding Chinese investment and in the sector? I know that's pretty controversial, but within agriculture, do you think there are opportunities where we should take more advantage of that, or how has that process been for you?
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And Mr. Green, welcome to New York. It's really good to see that you come here as a Minister of Agriculture from Jamaica, a young minister. And I think this is a good start in the sense of what I'm sensing as sort of a community outreach, not only in the international sphere, but how that can then resonate back into local community life in Jamaica. I'm also saying this because in my undergrad studies, I studied anthropology. And in my master's, I studied urban planning. And I'm sitting here trying to kind of weave these things together and pointedly touching on agriculture itself, the term, the word, and the meanings of it in terms of agri. And I'm not even going to touch that part, but the culture side. How can we, in focusing on the culture aspect of agriculture, taking that into consideration in terms of Jamaica's history and or
Speaking to the mic.
yeah, the country's history or social experiences and so forth. And when we look at issues such as community tourism and how to marry agriculture with all of these pieces, because as we're seeing here, agriculture is bouncing up on everything else. So I guess you're coming here as a starting point. So that's the biggest step forward. But as we move forward in terms of more thinking around these issues, how can we really try to bring the pieces and the parts together? And one last aspect has to do with the idea of investment. Now, what I'm hearing mostly is that if you have land in Jamaica, and some people are fortunate to have maybe reasonable or a lot of land, great. And then the other issue has to do with the agro parks. But what about the average Jamaican person who live here, who may not have lands, but have an interest and maybe have some other kind of resources, maybe, money. And if we can develop the solid kind of partnerships and levels of confidence building, so get that capacity together, so that we can really move this thing in what I'm sensing as a revolutionary, not in a radical sense, but in a progressive way, where we can see the true benefits of what Jamaican agriculture is about.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lorne, last question or comment to you, sir.
It's probably a combination. So we do a lot of real estate, and I believe the reason why real estate moves so quickly is because we have the active and the passive folks. What I'm hearing is that we have a lot of passive people with money that would love to move the industry, not enough leaders on the active side. So for instance, maybe these two gentlemen are in a position where you've gathered some intellectual property and some experience, or you're willing to spearhead a bigger venture where people could put capital behind your know-how and we could do more, or we could use collective capital to drive the industry. So I believe to get the diaspora involved in agriculture, you're always going to have a problem, and that is the barrier of the knowledge. We're not going to invest where we don't have knowledge. You shouldn't invest where you don't have knowledge. So either you're going to find a lead person with the knowledge, or you're going to go find the knowledge. Find the knowledge takes too long. So I believe that's the biggest barrier of entry that we have for the industry.
All right, thank you very much, Minister, and the panel. Minister, you want the panelists to answer first their comments and then give you a little bit. So, gentlemen, so you can start with what Jernil just said a while ago.
Yeah, what Mr. Lawrence said. Yeah, we're more than willing to share our knowledge, and that's why at the outset, you recall that I mentioned about having the private cooperatives, right? The private cooperatives, I think, is a start. And you're right in that we shouldn't invest without the knowledge. The knowledge is there, right? I paid for my knowledge. I paid dearly for my knowledge. And, the wiser man learns from the mistake of others. The knowledge is there, and we just need to partner up, right? So, as again, they say CG knows to get everything together. So we can look to CG as that kind of focal, point, nexus that it could help to bring that together. And I'm willing to participate in that. Yeah.
All right. Dr. Novo?
I have to piggyback on Lance. Yes, definitely. The knowledge is there. For me personally, it took me some time. I knew absolutely nothing about farming. It was just, one of those things that I just kind of envisioned and said, yes, this is what I wanted to do. But thank goodness for Rada. Rada was just very instrumental in actually helping me get my plan on the ground, especially when I wanted to plant breadfruit trees. They came out to the farm. They helped me put in like 250 breadfruit trees. They were there. They measured up, everything in the sense of the distance. So they were very instrumental in doing that. And also for the forestry department, they've given me a lot of trees. I think the young lady, yes, she was talking about the lumber. And so they've given me a lot of lumber. They've given me, mahogany trees and all of these, different trees that I planted on the property. Use them as windbreaks, use them as borders. So there's a lot of lumber that I have at this point. Not yet at maturity, but eventually, definitely getting there.
Okay. And Mr. Scully, before I come to you, the question that was asked, I just wanted to just wrap up with you. What is your most memorable moment? Just pick one. I'm sure you have several.
What was your most memorable challenge?
I think my most memorable challenge was when I first envisioned planting hot money peppers. It was one of those things that I really wanted to do, and I went ahead, did the research, planted it. But of course, it was like raising a premature child in the sense because it required so much effort, so much time, so much care, so much manpower, a lot of finances. And I think it was a learning process for me. Would I do it again? Yes, I would do it again. But now I would actually approach it totally different.
My most memorable challenge is playing out right now. I was in Jamaica a few weeks ago, and my pump went down. My well pump went down, right? So here's it. We lost all access to water. And I want to tell you, I just want to shout out Craig Batchelor, wherever he is in the world today. But we got a quote to look at our pump for like $3 million, to fix our pump for $3 million. And then Craig came out to the farm and he said to me, I'm just knowing, but you look like you're really trying. And I see all the sorrel in the ground. And then we have lots of sorrel in the ground right now. And he said to me, you know what? I am not going to charge you because you are trying really hard. You're a farmer trying hard to lift up the community. And I just pay my workers, but you don't have to pay them now because I don't want you to take any money away from your crop, right? It was like, it broke my heart because I was like, yo, this guy doesn't know me. And he says he's going to order the pump, do everything for me. And when the crop is done, I can pay him. I thought that was like, when you talk about good people in Jamaica, that was like first class, prima facie evidence of good people in Jamaica. And I'm so proud of Craig. I mean, he's other side of North Street, but proud of him anyway.
All right. So I'm just going to touch on that question you asked about investors from China. Jamaica is an open investment climate, and so we accept investments from any country, practically. And there are some significant Chinese investments in agriculture in Jamaica. The number one sugar estate, Frome, is owned by the Chinese through a deal that was done with the government some years ago. And they're also involved in mining as an investment in Jamaica. So, but I get a lot of inquiries from time to time from Chinese investors, and we try to facilitate them as much as possible.
All right, Minister.
All right. Let's go through.
But you don't need the two.
I don't need. Oh, I have two. All right. Cool. All right. So my friend was searching. All right. So definitely one of the things that we're trying to do is to bolster our tractor supply. One of the issues we have is the formulation now of our tractor services. Part of what I'm trying to do is how can we get it done in a more efficient manner, right? By utilizing the private sector. You talk about opportunities for investment in Jamaica. That's an opportunity for investment in Jamaica. I have been trying to court a sort of private supplier of tractors that the government could work with to provide some financing Because again, when the government buys the tractors, good, nice, everybody's excited, but the upkeep, the maintenance, so one of the things that we discussed with World Business Capital today is how can they use some of their funds to facilitate the purchasing of tractors and the unlending, leasing, renting of tractors in the local space or sale, right? Because again, more farmers would have tractors if the upfront cost wasn't that much, right? We don't really have financing of tractor purchasing, which is something that I'm very sure coming out of this trip, we will conquer so that we can finance tractor purchasing privately done so that farmers can go in, purchase a tractor with paying minimal, as happens, in developed agricultural enterprise. And that's one of the things. And the other thing that we're doing now with RADA is how can we use the private tractors that are underutilized most of the time, because you do land preparation, then you park a tractor. How can we use that in a system that we can provide more tractor services to farmers? Water, we have to talk about, I hear your suggestion. Clearly, we've looked at some of those things, but we can have a discussion about that. The RAMs are there. So the RAMs, when we brought in the RAMs, they were not for, I should say general. So the government has imported under the program probably about 200 goats in total, right? But they were not for, sometimes when people hear the government importing goat, they think it's for automatic distribution. But what we wanted to do was to rebuild our stock, right? So now they've started to have kids, and now we're looking now at a distribution methodology. In fact, we brought in 3 new breeds that are doing very well. Well, one is doing extremely well, the Kiko. So part of what we have to do, and we could speak all day, we are driving, and it's not sexy work, but it's important work. We're driving agricultural research in a big way because we can't move our sector forward unless we have a strong research agenda. So a lot of the things that we're doing now is to really drive research, drive models, and bring that back. So thank you. The question about lumber was well answered, but just to answer you, we do have a specific program called 3 million trees that we're looking to plant 3 million trees, lumber trees across Jamaica. So that's ongoing. And that's done by the forestry department. So clearly, if you're interested, not under our ministry, but we can help, right? Done by the forestry department. What was this? All right, yeah. So definitely, we actually do have strong youth programs though. And we do partner with the Ministry of Education. So we run our youth program through the 4-H club, right? Which is very active in most of our schools. In fact, we've been seeing increased activity. We did a couple of things. So we moved like, if you grew up in 4-H, it was kind of behind the scenes. Now we're really elevating them. So like the top boy for 4-H in high school, we have a competition for the top 4-H boy, top 4-H girl. They have to develop a business. They get $1 million each. So since we've done that, so we're creating high school millionaires in the Jamaican context. I mean, now everybody I rush 4-H, $1 million at the end of the journey. But on a bigger scale, one of the things that I'm going to be doing this year is working with agricultural teachers. Because what I have found, where you have secondary schools, especially with strong agricultural teachers, they produce wonderful agriculturists, right? So, you go, you meet somebody at a university, you say, why are you so interested in agriculture? They tell you that such and such was their teacher. So we need to kind of help the teachers. And we have a big school garden program that we're working on. And the paperwork, what Mr. Scully spoke about it, part of what we're trying to do is to reduce the bureaucracy. So we've heard all of the cries. And I mean, it used to take, when I used to practice law, it used to take a week, 2 weeks, a month to open a company in Jamaica. No, you can get that done in a day. You can get that done, next day, 3 day, right? Birth certificate, can get done in a day, right? We've moved a lot of these processes, right? And we're going to be doing that. And as Scully said, Agro-invest, it used to be 40 page a form, right? We're moving in that. Mr. Scully answered the investment question. We're open economy, right? We're open for all sorts of investment. We do believe right now we're going to have a competitive advantage in the American market because we do believe that America is looking for nearshore suppliers, and we believe we can supply. So, I think it's an exciting time. Culture, a part of agriculture, I'm happy that you appreciate it. What we're really doing here, and it's a more targeted approach. And it goes to the last comment about knowledge, right? And I agree. One of the things that I identified and we've identified is that oftentimes we think people have the knowledge when they don't, right? And we just say invest, invest. So we are going to be doing things like this, but this can't be it. This can't be the end all. This can't be the end. And I do believe the model that you suggested in finding some leads who actually have the experience, who reside in the space, and identify those leads and saying, outside of Scully, you know, so we have two people you can talk to, you can partner with. I think that will go a very, very far away. So in general, there was one more thing I wanted to say with a comment that was raised earlier. Sometimes in invested in agriculture, it was Lawrence who said it. So the investment is not approached like you're investing in any other enterprise. You approach it from a very nostalgic, do I have a family member? Do I have a man up the road? We're saying no. We're saying we wanted to invest because you want to make money like in any other enterprise. And we're saying we're training people every day. We have a College of Agriculture, Science and Education that people graduate from every day, training farm management, training piggery, poultry, everything. Well, I don't hear investors saying, let me go to the school and find somebody who has the expertise to help manage my enterprise. I'm saying we have those frameworks in place. So once we start approaching it from a strictly, we're getting invested in business standpoint, then we'll see a lot of returns. When I go to our big investors like Jam Agro now, or these people who were abroad, one of our big Cabra Ranch, their goat, they've got into goat milk. They have a wonderful goat rum cream. Try it when you're there in Jamaica. Goat milk rum cream, excellent. When you go there, their managers are not people they know at all. They're people who are trained in the area and are doing very, very well, right? The last thing I'll say, last two things, Scotch bonnet is still a great crop, right? But he is right. It is a delicate crop. Still a great crop because with our expansion of sauces, we don't have enough. But it's a delicate crop. So you need definitely expert guidance if you go into the Scotch bonnet. It's very susceptible to everything. Very touchy. And last, Chris, and I see you. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciated this. I really appreciated the engagement. Please don't keep the information to yourself. Share the information. And it wouldn't be fair if I were to big up everybody and not big up my uncle. Hello, uncle. Good to see you. Thank you.
All right.
Uncle Ivan.
You know, these people keep their family quiet because they don't want to stress them out. All right,
very well accomplished. A very well accomplished diaspora member.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, yes, CG? Yes.
Another one.
Yes, I was coming to my final wrap up, and CG, the huge, massive, as I call them, are out, led by President Donovan Wilson. Mr. Wilson, wave your hand. If you have not joined your alumni, please. I see two active alumni. I see Mr. Bennett mentioned the JC Old Boys New York. Please, if you're a JC Old Boy. Huh?
Only about Edwin Allen.
You didn't say who you're from, or you represent. So Edwin Allen. Right. But before you go, scan that QR code that you see on the screen, and it will take you to Mr. Scully's personal contact, so you can reach him all the time. And all the time. And if you don't reach him, just call the CG, who will call the minister, who will call him. All right. And finally, I can't let you go without putting in a plug. See, on the 23rd of August, a very important event is going to take place in New York. It's called the Jamaica Independence Gala. And why I plug it specifically here, because one of the things that we do coming out of the gala is offering scholarships to students in Jamaica. And when we last offered scholarships, we gave out 17 scholarships. We gave scholarships to UWI, UTEC, CASE, and Sam Sharp Teachers College. CASE got the second highest number of scholarships, only beaten one by UWI. And it's full scholarship. So We really offer the scholarship to the final year students because we want them to finish, want them to not having to worry about anything to get through their exams. And it's a full scholarship. So, so exactly. So if you come to the gala, and you can also donate if you're not coming, we will soon have a form out where you can pledge a scholarship to a student at any of the participating colleges or universities. So if you're not able to come, you can say, we are willing to give the $2,600. That's a tuition fee for that school, or $1,600 for the other one. But we'll have that all up and running. So bear that in mind. The 23rd of August, the Jamaica Independence Gala will be back, and we want to raise, I've been given a very tough target this year. And, you know, we have to work it. Yes, the Council General says we have to give 40 scholarships this year. So if you do that at an average of $2,650 per student, you see how much money we have to clear. Not the amount that we have to take in, that we have to clear and have in at the end of the bag. So again, thank you all for coming this evening. Scan the QR code, get the contact information from Mr. Scully, talk to Dr. Noble and Mr. Dyer over there, because they have very important information. Talk to Brett and Ricardo from World Business Capital if you want to figure out. And I see Carl over there who had mentioned as well that he wants to talk to these guys and figure out how you can get the investments going, because it is events like this of networking that will drive the economy forward. So again, thank you all for coming, and have a good rest of the evening.
Perfect. Yes, sir. Very good. Very good.